myself again. But it's the only way you're ever gonna learn. You look back and it's all in the past. I'm dwelling on that.
Good evening and welcome to NUFC Matters. It is ladies' night and I am joined by Alicia, Kendall and Sav. Holly is trying to get in. She's having technical difficulties, so she will be joining us tonight. Shout out to Lily as well, who was going to be on tonight but can't make it. Sam is busy at work, so we've always got plenty to talk about. And let's start with the game, Alicia. You will have covered it. I had a weekend off. I didn't watch Newcastle at the weekend. I was sick to the back teeth. I've been to a funeral. Last thing I wanted to watch was Newcastle United killing themselves on the pitch, and that's by all accounts what they did again. You know, football suicide with with a crazy goal, a fluke, which Steve Bruce called it, but then managed, thankfully, thanks very much to Murphy coming on, to pull it back, get a point. Again, we find ourselves asking the question, was it 1 point earned or 2 points drop? I guess this weekend it felt as if it was a point earned because we were 1-0 down in injury time.
Yeah, we just don't make it easy for ourselves yet again. Another week where we'll make a game far too difficult. You know, we've done it in West Brom and we just carried it over, and we didn't really look interested until we actually went 1-0 down, and it gave them the kick and they were like, oh, hold on, we actually need to do something because we're about to drop 3 points. And we need to be picking up more than 1 point. This 1 point every game isn't going to get we're anywhere. I feel like Fulham could end up catching us up if we keep doing this week in, week out. Dwight Gill playing on the left. Do you know what that was all about? You know, I've been crying for Murphy for weeks and he finally comes on and makes an impact, and he needs to start. Steve Bruce has to, at some point, realise the players that he's going to get the most out of. And Murphy, you know, he is a childhood supporter of this club. He gets it. He wants to work hard. He looks interested. And I think he should be playing going forward, and personally.
Yeah, I mean, I would agree. I mean, he was in my team that I selected the other week for the Wolves game. But, Steve Bruce, went for negativities. He seems to be going for draws, Alicia.
Yeah, it's like we're set up for a draw. I was surprised Hendrick wasn't in there because he seems to be a bit of a favourite of Bruce of late. But it was interesting to see him not in. But he's just setting up for draws. Like, the whole formation didn't suit the players that was getting played. He needs to change his formation with the players he's playing. He can't stick the same without Mickey Allen or Callum Wilson. You can't play the same with a completely different set of players. You've got to adapt and change. And he keeps bringing out excuses, but I didn't want to change it too much. Yeah, but the players aren't used to playing that way, so you've got to play to their strengths. And I keep saying, if you're going to play Gale, you have to play Murphy with him, because it's pointless, because the way we play is the long ball that that Gale can't get to.
Kendall, when you saw the team the weekend, were you happy? Were you annoyed?
I just was like, why? I think I'm like that every single week. Like, literally just, why are you doing that? Like, genuinely, why is this happening? Because, like, he kept saying, oh, I can't play Carroll and Gale because it'll change the system too much. Okay, fair enough. In a game that probably would have been crying out for Carroll and Murphy, you go and put Fraser centrally and Gale on the wing. Like, was that the weirdest thing you ever saw? Because it was very strange to me. I just really don't understand where his thought processes come in, like, at all. I mean, like, Fernandez that is back there, Manquillo's been on the bench for 2 games now, and yet he still insists on playing Kraft. Like, I just don't get it. It's so confusing. And honestly, like, probably like 70 minutes in, I was like, you know what, we genuinely, well, no, maybe not that far, it's a bit extreme. Maybe it's like till the beginning of the second half, I was like, you know what, actually we could do this, like, genuinely could win this game. And then it happens all over again, and there's, we only play good for 30 minutes. And then I said this last week, we play well for 30 minutes and then drop off completely, have no spark, no creativity, no passion, no drive. And we absolutely are desperate, especially with Brighton winning yesterday, because that was a nail in our coffin, I thought, because they grinded out that win. They played really well against Southampton, and we just can't do that. We can't even, win against West Brom. Like, it's just horrible to watch at the moment, really horrible.
Sav, did you enjoy the game?
It was all very meh, weren't it? It's typical Newcastle sort of game. Kendall's right. We play really well for the first 30 minutes, and then it looks like we're blowing out of our asses for the rest of it. And I don't know if that's a fitness thing. Like, obviously, we were talking about the lack of training last week, although Steve Bruce thinks he's following some sort of science, but who knows? But I don't know. It was just very meh. I thought we were lucky to get that goal. But the one thing that I was thinking, I wish that we played like we did after we went 1-0 down, with that throwing people forward. Like, if we played like that more often, because you can guarantee that if it was still at 0-0, we'd have still been sitting back, letting them have all the possession, letting them run at us. I think that it was lucky that Grealish wasn't there, because Aston Villa are like a different side with Grealish in there. So we were fortunate, but I don't know if it's going to be enough. But Steve Bruce does seem to be like he's setting up for a draw at the moment, like every time we turn out. And I don't know. I know he had that thing in his press conference where he says it's an accumulation of points, and I think he just wants to accumulate 1 point per match and then play it safe. But I don't think it's not going to work, and it's unfortunate. It's making me really angry, to be honest, with it all, because he doesn't seem bothered. He's not even. There's no urgency. No one's got any urgency.
I wish we played like Brazil, but there's not much chance of that under Steve Bruce, is there? Let's get down to serious matters. We always have to take the questions from the chat. And Peter Robson says, "Evening, ladies and Steve. Here's one for you. With the hairdressers currently closed and most of us rocking dodgy trims, not you, Steve, which footballer, current or old, has rocked the worst haircut? Is there a bad haircut out there that you've seen? It's not something I would particularly look at, Alicia, but are you thinking of anybody who hasn't quite managed to, to get their hair as good as they usually do?
I wouldn't say haircut, but that phase that Andy Carroll went through a couple of months ago with his beard was a bit strange.
I'll throw Ryan Fraser under the bus here. I think Ryan Fraser's hair is a bit of a mess. Yeah, what do you think about that, Kendall? I think he's been a bit of a mess at the minute.
Yeah, I wouldn't really go. I mean, I can't speak at all about hair, by the way, because I have not had my hair touched by a hairdresser since July. Like, it's very bad. So let's just ignore it. So maybe I'm not the best person to speak about haircuts, but yeah, Ryan Fraser's hair is not great. It's a bit orange going on at the moment. I remember when Paul Dummett tried to do a Sergio Aguero and dye his hair like white blonde. Does anyone remember that? He's suddenly got rid of that, so that's all right. I think there's a couple of bad trims going on in our squad,
Yeah, there is. I mean, Sav, we've seen Joe Linton, of course, dye his hair the colour of the champions when Liverpool were going to be crowned, and he got a bit of stick for that. We saw Joe Linton, of course, breaking COVID rules by going and getting a haircut illegally at a hairdresser's when he should have been waiting like everybody else. But is there anybody else who you can think of? I mean, you seem to have done quite well, Sav. You must be doing it yourself at home. I mean, you said before about your roots, but I mean, it looks okay to me.
Yeah, no. Do you know what? The first time I did it, I was so stressed. I only ended up doing half my roots, so I had to go back through and do the rest. Because when you put bleach on your scalp, I thought all my hair was going to come out, but I've got used to it now. But one that I did, I was actually thought of this yesterday. Gareth Bale. Now, I'm sure he does still see a hairdresser. I think most of them, if not all of them, are still seeing hairdressers. But I do not like his hair. Like, I really like long hair on a guy, but I don't like that long hair. It offends me a little bit. I don't mean to be rude, but it really does. I just can't bear to look at it. I just wish that he'd do something with it, like grow out the underlayer and have it all longer, and not have a man bun, or chop off the top layer. Those two lengths, it's not aesthetically pleasing for me. He may like it, and I'm not being mean. And anyone who's got that hairstyle, I'm not insulting. It's just not my sort of thing.
Yeah, okay, well...
really bad? That Diangana who plays for West Brom. He had a really blue, patchy, weird...
Yeah, that was
going on.
He's like granny rings.
Yeah, that was very odd when we played him. It wasn't even nice. It looked like he just literally spray painted his hair.
Well, Peter, I've got to say there's nothing wrong with a good old Bobby Charlton. So if anybody fancies getting a Bobby Charlton out there, I might start opening a Wraith hairdressers or something like that. I could probably do one of them for you if you want to come and see me after lockdown. Of course, we'll sort that out. Tom Dixon, thanks as always, mate. You're on the money. He just pointing out that there's been a couple of fixture changes, both on Sky Sports. Tottenham now at home on Sunday the 4th of April, 2:05 kickoff. Burnley away Sunday the 11th at 12 noon. So thanks for that. Tom, thanks for keeping us up to date. Julie's wanting to know, Sav, if you've seen the clip of Fabian Shaw on his Insta today. It's a clip of the physios. Seems as if it could be good news.
Yeah, he looked like he was running, but he looked like he was in a water tank. Is that the one that everyone's on about? I was like, is he in some sort of water? Is that some sort of air compression? I couldn't quite work out what it was. I watched it a couple of times and I still couldn't work it out. But it looked better. I mean, he could move his leg. And Steve Bruce said he was on crutches like a couple of weeks ago. So it looks like he's improving.
Yeah, okay. Be Happy says Newcastle deserved to win. To be honest, they wanted the game more than my Villa. Thanks, Be Happy. Yeah, I think you're right in one way. I mean, the highlights that I saw did seem to be some kind of effort coming from Newcastle. But yeah, look, point to point, you mustn't grumble is what it used to say on top of the pink, which was a newspaper I used to be able to get after the match, girls. I'm sure it's probably before your time, but it used to come out at 5:30. Used to buy it at Monument, and that used to be a little football at the top of the pink, and he used to say that a point's a point, you mustn't grumble. Stuck with us, I don't know why. Atsu, I'm going to talk about that, Alicia. Obviously he scored today. Yeah, he's playing in the 23s. Newcastle got beat 2-1 by Leeds. It was televised live. It was interesting to watch it. A couple of the people in the chat the last couple of weeks have said that we should maybe look at the women's football and look at the 23s. So I'm going to start looking at the 23s, and I'm sure if you want to, maybe have a look at the women's, see if there's anything going on. It'd be nice to maybe update the about the women's football team on here. But at the moment, let's talk about Atsu, Alicia. He's, not Bruce's favourite player, but him and Matty Longstaff both being given a run out. Do you think that's in preparation, maybe for being used, or are they just being made to earn their money?
Yeah, I think it's just like probably a fitness thing to try and sell them on or something, because I can't see Atsu getting in this squad. There's been umpteen chances where you go, right, put Atsu in, where we play it down, put Atsu, and he never does. I feel like if the stuff about the Longstaffs is true and the whole fallout, obviously that's going to hinder him coming back in, which could mean he could go out on loan, etc. in the next couple of months. So, I don't know, it's probably kind of putting them on display to other clubs that might be interested. Obviously, yeah, it's Leeds under 23s, but things get fed back to the higher, like the A team, as you would call it, and things get passed on and fed through. So, it's still kind of putting them on display, so it could be more for that than them actually getting a chance in our team.
Okay, Kendall, I mean, Atsu, is it somebody you'd like to see back near the first team, or is that has that boat sailed for you?
I said it. I think I said it last week on the show. Like, I wouldn't pass on it. Like, I don't feel like he's done anything wrong necessarily. He just obviously wasn't up to scratch, and I mean, he scored today, so we're missing goals. Can we see a return, a resurgence of Christian Atsu? I thought it was always all right for us. I mean, it wasn't great. It wasn't going to set the world alight, let's be honest. But no harm done there. I mean, he could be a bench player if he wants to be. I don't know. I can't imagine us seeing him anytime soon. I'm not going to lie. Whether or not we want to see that resurgence of Atsu, but I don't think we're going to see him anytime soon.
Okay, Life Goals would like to know what the tattoo is on your right wrist, Kendall.
I've got one on both, actually. They're half mandalas because I like mandala patterns, and I've got a lotus on my back in like a similar dot work. What's the word? Dot work pattern. I couldn't think of the word pattern. Yeah, I've got a lotus on my back in a similar pattern because I like Hindu and like Buddhist patterns and stuff that mean something, and the lotus represents like beauty that they grow in muddy waters, so it means that beauty can be brought from like the darkest of times, and it's got my grandma's name underneath because obviously she passed away 2 years ago. So yeah, there's my life story for you on my tattoos.
There we go. I hope that answers your question. Life Goals. Sav, Atsu, would you like to see him back in the team?
Not particularly. We just say he scored today. Jeff Hendricks scored twice for us this season, and look what everyone's saying about him. So I think we've got to stick with a system at the moment because obviously we've got so many injuries. Steve Bruce needs to find what works best for now and just run with that. And Atsu hasn't played, in the main squad for so long now. And just, if he scored it, well done to him scoring today. I just can't. Well, like Alicia said, I can't see Steve Bruce putting him in anyway. He won't put Matty Longstaff back in. I mean, he wasn't in the under-23 side today, not even on the bench. So who knows where he's gone again. But, I have been paying a bit more attention to the under-23s, mainly because our squad is so shocking. I'm just trying to see if there's anyone better that could possibly be put in there. But, I didn't realise it was on TV today either. What channel was that on? Was it on,
Leeds broadcasted on their channel, so it was just I mean, it was a freebie on their behalf, so that was good of them to do that. But yeah, look, worth watching. I was quite impressed. I mean, we got beat, but there was there was a pattern to play, and for me, it's just good to see players getting a run out in that level. It's something which sometimes the club haven't done. Back in the days of Keegan, he scrapped the reserves, and players weren't given the opportunity to do that. But I'm going to start watching a bit more of it if I can, and certainly if we ever get a chance to go back to games, it'd be nice to go and watch the 23s and at some point and give them a bit of support and see what we've got coming through. Alicia, Jermaine Jenas causing a bit of controversy. We had it on the Rant show earlier this evening, where people were talking about commentators and pundits, basically stoking up the fires and winding up Newcastle fans. Jermaine Jenas is another one. He basically said that we've got the right man in Steve Bruce as far as the manager's concerned. Would you agree?
Yeah, he's been saying it for quite a few weeks now, hasn't he? I feel like every time he's on the telly, he just talks about Steve Bruce all the time. I still feel like he doesn't understand this club, which is strange because he's played for us, but I feel like he just gets the complete opposite idea. He always feels like we're asking for too much, or we exaggerate, or it's our fault. A bit like the narrative of Steve Bruce. Maybe they're good friends, but it does turn out that sometimes these pundits are quite friendly with the managers that they kind of back all the time. And maybe he's not interested in Newcastle. A lot of the pundits don't even watch for half the time and just watch if they have to, if they're on that game. But we obviously haven't got the right man. And, he said the last time, well, if they stay in the Premier League, then they can't win because they're still a Premier League club. Yeah, but we don't want to be fighting against Fulham and Brighton every year just to not get relegated. We've been through that before. We went through that phase. We got relegated. Rafa came in, took us in at 10th. And then ever since that, it's just gone back downhill again. So, yeah, we had a couple of nice years where we were actually trying to get into the top half of the Premier League. And now we're just trying to survive every season again.
Yeah, I would agree. What's your take on that, Kendall?
Oh, doesn't mute itself. The pundits, I've said it on this show before, just haven't got a clue. We had Graham Souness telling everyone today that the Newcastle fans are demanding and it's a toxic atmosphere. He was literally the manager 15 years ago. What do you know about the atmosphere at St James's Park unless you're there commentating now? We're not being a pundit now. You have no idea. Back then, it probably was toxic because we were successful. We had European football pretty much every season. We expected it at that point. Now we just sitting here expecting to, try and be 12th every year. You know what I mean? We're not expecting European football. And Joe Cole sitting there saying, Steve Bruce is the right man for the job. Was it Joe Cole who said the most ridiculous comment where he was like, if Newcastle were in this position with the manager, Steve Bruce would be the one they would call on.
Mental.
He got us in this position. So why would we go and call on him when he literally got us there? Honestly, that was Michael Owen-esque, that comment. It's just unbelievable, really. And, these pundits that they put on, aside from possibly Alan Shearer, who he doesn't really slate Bruce necessarily because I know they're friends, but he does tell the truth about the club. And, Jake Humphrey tells the truth about the club. But these ex-player pundits think that they know everything and they know absolutely nothing in reality. They don't know the real situation of it. They look at it objectively rather than subjectively, and they think they know. But Jermaine Jenas obviously showed his little affiliation with Tottenham at the weekend and was crying about the penalty and stuff. So we know where his interests lie. So I'm not going to sit and listen to him. I called him a tit on this show one day, and that's where my opinion stands. So yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, if he continues to make comments like that, he gets everything he deserves, I'm afraid. Interesting. Sav, Jermaine Jenas, just one of a whole host of pundits who likes to get on our wick. And, Kendall's mentioned another one there, of course, Graham Souness. I mean, she's quite right, 15 years since he managed Newcastle, but still likes to have a little bit of a dig every now and then. But what does he know?
Yeah, I know. It was quite funny, because he's not really done anything since either, has he? So... joke's on him, really. I think he's just bitter, and that was exactly how it sounded. But the Jermaine Jenas thing was actually quite interesting because I saw a few Arsenal fans kicking off over him this morning. So I was like, I wonder what he said. So I went I had to search through the videos, and I came across one of him in 2019. And he was talking about Steve Bruce, and he was saying about how he was going to come in and drive the club forward because he remembered the days we was in the Champions League and the days we was doing really well, and he was hopeful that Steve Bruce was going to be able to drive us back to the better days. And I was thinking back to his interview the other week where he said we deserve to be where we are, and I was like, oh, how your tune changed pretty quick from that. And so that was quite interesting. I think that he just says, he clearly is quite friendly of Steve Bruce. I think that's just all that can be behind it. I think a lot of them are. I mean, he's quite a friendly guy. He seems quite a friendly guy, Steve Bruce, but don't change the fact that he's still not a great manager.
Holly, can you hear us?
Yeah, I can hear you now. It's working.
Yay! Welcome to the show, Holly. You've joined us halfway through the debate, but we'll get you into it. Life Goals is just saying, will I grow my hair until the end of the season just so we can see what it's like? No. I won't. That's what it looks like when I have hair. That's me and Mickey Quinn back in the 1989-90 season when we played live on Match of the Day, and I went on in front of 20 million people on Match of the Day and said I was Mickey Quinn's brother. Mickey found it absolutely hilarious, and he still calls us his kid to this day. So that's what it looks like. No, I won't be growing it because I can't grow it, Life Goals. So it'll be rather embarrassing if I tried that. But anything else for charity other than wearing a Sunderland top, I'm always going to have a look at it, mate. So never stop asking. Holly, just a quick one on Jermaine Jenas. I mean, he's been winding people up again on Match of the Day, saying we've got the right man in Steve Bruce. What's your take on that?
Rubbish as usual. Like, I can't believe journalists at this point are still backing up Steve Bruce. I thought we were past that now. Like, they backed him up for absolutely months and months, years even, whilst we were all saying this guy is going to take us down. He's not good for the club. They eventually seem to come on our side and see it for how it is and the fact that he is a bad manager. And then Jermaine Jenas is back to square one, spreading absolute rubbish, saying he's the right man for the job, which he's just embarrassing himself now, really, because I think anyone, even someone that has no knowledge about Newcastle, can see that he's not doing a good job. He's literally got us practically relegated, so I don't understand that. It's just embarrassing for him, really.
What did you make of the game? You did match day live. I mean, was it a point gain this time? We asked the same question last week, but obviously getting a late equaliser, Holly, it felt as if it was more of a point gained. I didn't watch the match. I saw the highlights on Match of the Day, and it's never the best way to watch it, really. So, apart from picking up the the match day live, I did watch it back. It seemed to me just we'd given up before we'd even started, really, and managed to grab a last gasp equaliser.
It was a point game for me. I know a lot of people were quite annoyed about it, but when we scored that equaliser, I felt like we'd won the game. I was really, really happy about it. I know, like, it might not be like the best situation, but at the time I was just really happy about it, and I thought we deserved the point because I don't think that Aston Villa were better than we or anything, but in the end we could have quite easily lost that game. I mean, when Villa scored, because I predicted 1-0 to Villa, I was like, for God's sake, like, I didn't want to be right about it. I felt like I jinxed it. But then when we equalised it, I was really, really happy. And as long as we keep picking up scrappy points, I think hopefully we might just scrape by to stay up, because until that Villa game, I was like really negative, like, I think we're down. But we've had a few lucky points, and I just think if we keep managing to do that, then fingers crossed we can just get 17th.
God, it's going to be touch and go. It could go to the last game, and I hoped it wasn't going to go to those last couple of games, but it really could. ASM Alicia has cropped up again on social media. He loves a selfie and he loves posting photographs. And I've got to be honest, it was quite refreshing to see him embrace, social media and get in touch with fans. And what he did with the food bank was great. But I've got to be honest, it's getting on me wick, this posting photographs when he's injured. He's now out on his bike, and we're in the midst of a relegation season. Does he care? Is he trying to ride out to Newcastle? What's going on with the SM, do you think?
I wouldn't blame him. But I don't know. There's a lot of rumours flying around he's either in France or has just returned back from France, which isn't great. So many managers in the Premier League that have lost loved ones during this time didn't even go to funerals, and if he's travelling backwards and forwards to France when he's injured, it doesn't look great. Players normally kind of get back to full fitness with the club and through the club's help and things like that. I don't get why he has to go back. If it is true, I don't know how true it is, but you want to hope that he cares. I feel like he's lost a lot of his kind of will to play since there's been no fans in stadiums. He is that showboat player. He does feed off the fans, and I think that's really hindered him. And it's kind of come along as when he signed his new contract as well. So I hope it's not a thing of he signed his contract, that's it, I know I'm getting that money for 6 years, I can do whatever I want. I hope it's not that, and I hope he does genuinely still want to play for us.
Is it just me then, Sav, getting a bit annoyed at ASM, or does it wind you up a little bit that he keeps posting stuff? I don't really see anybody else doing this kind of thing, and it's attention seeking, is it? Or if it's something positive, and he's posting that he's on his way back, ready to fight for the cause, I think I would be more inclined to be happy. But it just seems to be anything other than that.
I think that's the issue. I think he is just one of these people that is all over social media and likes to post all those sort of photos of him out and about and doing stuff. But it is also like, in comparison to, say, Fabian Schär today, who tweeted, on his Insta stories, him sort of doing his rehabilitation to get back. There's nothing like that coming from ASM, like, ever when he's been out. I know that generally the club don't say anything about what's going on, so we never know anyway. But it does just always look like, from the outside in, I mean, obviously social media, people will only show what they want to show, and they have got a life outside of it. And people generally, this is why I don't do Facebook anymore, because people generally only post the best bits of their lives. And if you're having a really crappy time, it makes you feel slightly inadequate. But I think maybe it's that. He just likes to post up pictures of what he's doing and nothing else. It's so difficult to tell from pictures. It doesn't annoy me as such. I don't know where the France thing derived from, because I hadn't seen anything that sort of indicated he'd been in France, and I haven't seen a story on it. I think I did read a story on it, but I don't know where that came from, originated from. But if he has been back to France, I find that a little bit concerning, because obviously he went back there over Christmas and New Year. And for me, that sort of shows that, is he settling over here if he keeps splitting back over there every 5 minutes? That, for me, is the concern, really.
Yeah, I would agree. I mean, it's, it does sound as if he has been to France. And then, of course, if he has, then, there's a period of isolation that he has to go through. It's all very frustrating. I mean, Holly, am I just making a mountain out of a molehill here, or have I got a valid point?
I think to a certain extent that it is not really appropriate to be posting it. I think maybe he should have like a personal account where he's just got his own friends and family on that he can post that stuff on if he wants to, not his actual like public account that all of the fans follow. But he just needs to kind of stay focused on his football, especially with the position that we're in, because a lot of the fans are feeling very negative, and obviously it's quite a concerning time for the club. So he needs to be just showing that he's 100% committed to helping the club out, instead of posting, going on bike rides and whatever else he's doing. But if he has been to France, then that is really, really disgraceful, to be honest. Obviously, I don't know if it's true, but like you say, there's lots of people that won't have been able to go to funerals and stuff like that. That's lost people to COVID, and it's just not really appropriate. If he wants to go to France, then he needs to literally just stay in France and not play for Newcastle for the rest of the season, in my opinion.
Trolls says, why complain about what he does while he recovers and maybe cycling helps his injury? It's a point, Trolls, possibly. However, you know, he should be in this country doing that and concentrating on it. But I don't know. Well, again, the club doesn't give us information on these things. We're left to guess and second guess, which is why I brought it up. I just feel, you know, posting photographs on social media is highly inappropriate when, you know, he's supposed to be getting himself back into contention for keeping Newcastle United up. It's what he gets paid for, after all. Kendall, what's your view on ASM?
You know, to be honest, we know he's like a social media player. A lot of players these days are and interact with the fans, and you know, they kind of want to be more of a social media personality, if you will, over football. But I just think like he can do what he wants. That's fine, and obviously the club are letting him do it, so he's not going to say no. Do you know what I mean? It's not like him saying, "Oh, you know, bugger the club, like I'm going to go and do what I want." They're letting him do it. So if that was me, I'd be doing the same. Do you know what I mean? Obviously there's no disciplinary issues. If he wants to go back to France because that's where his family are, then fair enough. But in my opinion, it's just tone deaf. Like, that's where I'm at with it. It's tone deaf to be at a club who's in the middle of a relegation battle, whose fans are becoming increasingly disengaged with the club, who are negative, who are upset, down. It's just tone deaf. Like, surely you want your players, and especially one of your best players, to be, you know, come on guys, like show them positive. Like Callum Wilson is constantly being posting about his physio, constantly being posting about his recovery. Every other day he's posting something about his recovery. I've not seen anything else from him apart from like even his birthday posts, like just from his friends. Like, no celebrations whatsoever. But as I say, he can do what he wants. That's fair enough. It doesn't necessarily annoy me, but it's just tone deaf in my opinion. I feel like you should be trying to give more hope to the fans that your brain's there and your mentality's there, that you want to, you know, fight for the club. Because at the end of the day, it's his job. Like, surely, I mean, he probably isn't even going to care because, you know, he's going to be the first player out the door if we do get relegated. There'll be a million clubs after him, and obviously now he's got a release clause in his contract, so that'll be a pretty simple transfer if there ever is one. So he probably isn't really that bothered. I wouldn't be. If I was in his position, I would not be bothered at all because, you know, the club don't seem to be bothered. Steve Bruce isn't bothered. Mike Ashley's not bothered, so why should I be? So yeah, I kind of get his mentality, but I don't think it's great, and I don't think it's very appropriate in this sort of current time at the club.
Fair enough. You heard the girls' points. Have you got any points to make? Got half an hour to do it. Drop us a message in the chat. Spider VPN, thank you very much for your sponsorship last month and this month. And of course, we're going to have a big Spider VPN giveaway for the people in the chat tomorrow night on the Liam Kennedy show at 6 o'clock. Big thank you also to Geordie Riffs sponsoring us this month. Premium guitar lessons for beginners and children, guitar repairs and service and recording studio. Visit our website www.geordieriffs.co.uk. Follow them on Facebook, Geordie Riffs Official, and their Instagram. They're really hoping to get their Instagram up, so get onto @GeordieRiffs and give them a follow on their Instagram. Big shout out to John as well from qtechshop.co.uk, the makers of pool tables and snooker tables in Wallsend in Newcastle, and also a big shout out to John at Jab Signature, who makes the flyers and promotional material. If you miss any of the episodes, you can catch up on your podcast provider on iTunes or Spotify or some of the others. And if you're a first time visitor to the channel, click subscribe. Hit that little picture of Newcastle Legends in the bottom right hand corner and hit the subscribe button. Also hit the like button, that's a little thumb, and give it a share as well. Don't forget you can catch the girls on their channels as well. Alicia, Kendall, Holly all got YouTube channels which you can find in their Twitter subscriptions. They've all got their Twitter handles up on there. So you've got at Kendall Rowan, at HollyBlades05, and Alicia, I'm not sure what yours is. And Sav, have you got yours sorted yet?
I'm doing it this week. I've got a video going out this week. I've just got to edit it. I'm like a dinosaur. I don't understand technology anymore. It's taking me so long. I'm having to relearn it. I thought I'd got it all with like Windows 95, and then I've gone and got this MacBook, and I don't understand what I'm doing, but it is getting there.
Good stuff. All good content. Alicia, what's your Twitter handle, just so people can find your link?
It's at AliciaFC2000.
There we go. So give the girls a follow on Twitter, and also give their channels a follow as well on YouTube, because there is lots of different content. Kendall works like a trooper. She's on quite a lot of other programs as well. Always well worth watching, because they're not all Newcastle related. Sometimes it's nice to have a break away from Newcastle United, and
top six teams, and also La Liga, some La Liga content as well, if anyone's interested in La Liga content. So yeah.
Yeah, we did delve into politics a little bit, I say, on the rant show a little bit earlier, girls, and I think it would be wrong if I didn't ask you a little bit about what happened at the weekend. Alicia, do you have any views? Obviously, awful to see the death of young Miss Everard, and then the subsequent protests at the weekend, and just really your thoughts on do you feel safe on the streets? It's something I'm interested in generally. Do you feel safe walking the streets when you're out and about?
I would say that I'm quite lucky in the fact that I'm never out alone. So I'm very lucky in that sense that I never have that opportunity of not feel safe, because I'm always with somebody. But I can completely sympathise and understand with people who might not feel as safe. So yeah, I mean, it's absolutely awful what happened, and my heart does go out at the family and friends. But luckily, I'm one of the lucky ones who kind of is always with somebody and does feel safe.
Yep, okay. Obviously, Sav, same question to you, really. Just interested in your views in it. It's been a pretty horrific time for Sarah Everard's family. There was a well-intentioned vigil, although, it has to be said what we saw at the weekend and what we're seeing again tonight. These are illegal during the pandemic, mass gatherings, and people are just completely ignoring the rules. However, people were doing it for the right reasons at the weekend. Fully understand that. People turned up at a funeral I went to on Friday. There was 1,000 people there. The police stayed well clear of it because of the type of people who'd actually turned up at this funeral. But you can't stop the way that people feel about stuff and turning up, can you, really? What's your views on what's happened?
No, I think, given what's happened, it's a real emotive thing. And, I sat and thought about it the other night, and it sounds really weird. I've hardened to it. I don't worry. I mean, I do have anxiety, but I don't worry specifically about, anyone coming to grab me, because I work in an industry where you get a lot of drunk guys that are around, and I've been grabbed at work. I've threatened to stab them with pitchforks and all sorts. It all goes off. But I've just got used to it. And there's been times when I've laughed it off. And I said it the other night, and I thought, that was never acceptable, actually. I don't know why I've stood for that. And I don't know. And it's quite sad how I've become comfortable to walking around like that and not bothered. But yeah, I mean, it was upsetting to see, the police bundling people to the floor. I get that we are in a lockdown, but I think the message behind why the vigils are being held, is quite an important one. It's just unfortunate that we are in the middle of a massive pandemic and, social distancing, and it is a law break. I'm really sort of torn on it. I 100% get why people feel the need to do it and why it would evoke emotion in, a lot of women right now. But obviously with the Lords, it didn't look good. But then the way that the police were bundling people to the floor, like they committed a massive crime, I didn't think was right. I think there was a picture of a woman with a police officer sat on top of her. And I don't think that's the right answer in this situation. But like you said, you went to a funeral where there's 1,000 people and the police steered clear. So Is it double standards or something?
Yeah, no, I agree. Listen, I mean, it's an emotive subject. I just thought it would be wrong if we didn't touch on it. Holly, I mean, do you feel safe walking the streets? I mean, Stu's made a point there. Look, it's not safe for men or women on our streets now. I mean, I've got to be honest, it's the first thing that came to mind for me. I'm not a woman, I'm a man. So, I would still feel unsafe in certain parts of the UK. For instance, when I go to London a lot. I get an Uber. It's very rare that you would see me walking down a street, going from A to B in London, because you just don't know what's going to happen. Street crime's prolific down there. Knife crime is prolific. How many young lives have been lost? We've seen it on the news on countless occasions. I've got to agree with Stu. In some places, it's not safe for anybody on the streets. But you, as a woman, do you feel safe?
In terms of the point that you made about London and stuff, like, I feel quite lucky to live in kind of like Newcastle and like the northeast area, because for me personally, I feel quite safe. Like, I never really worry about going out of the house. But when I do travel to different parts of the country, which isn't that often, but sometimes when I do, to the likes of London, then I do feel unsafe. But I suppose that's not because of being a woman, that's just genuinely because of the amount of crime and stuff that you see happen in those kinds of areas. But obviously that doesn't really affect us too much since I'm usually just in the Newcastle area and I feel safe there. But in terms of Sarah, like, obviously rest in peace, like, it's over what happened, and my thoughts go out to our family and our friends and everyone that knew her, and it was really, really awful. The vigil that they had, I'm kind of torn on it as well, because I do agree that there needs to have been like a big kind of thing to honour our life and also highlight the fact that it is a problem, especially in the area where she lived. But I think that they should have done that kind of after the pandemic. I know obviously by that point it would have cooled down a bit, so to speak, and it might not seem as relevant then considering it's just happened, but I would have waited till kind of June when the restrictions are supposed to be fully off, just because I don't think it's helping anybody by putting other people at risk, during the pandemic. I just don't think that that's responsible. The police did act a bit shockingly the way they were like detaining people and stuff, because I don't think that was necessary. Like, they should have just told everyone to disperse and go home. If they weren't listening, then fair enough, but I don't seem to think that they were actually asking people to leave. They were kind of just going straight in with the like brutal force, basically. So yeah, but I completely understand why people felt the need to do it.
Kendall, you're not one to hold back. I can imagine you've got a lot to say on this matter, and I do think it's right that we talk about, something that's affecting us all in this country at the minute. What's your views on this, and do you feel safe?
You know what? It's not even a case of do I feel safe alone, because there's been times when I've been on nights out and I've been harassed by men, like with people around in the street. Like if men are going to do that, I'm not even just strictly keeping it a men. This is just the point I'm going to make, obviously, because of the Sarah Everard case, because it was, a man and a woman alone on the streets. And I think the fear is a lot more heightened for women because, it's this classic case of alpha male versus, like a weaker female physicality and things like that, which isn't necessarily true, but that's just, the mentality that we have. And unfortunately, it does seem to be more women that, experience that kind of thing, in terms of you wouldn't see a woman kidnapping a man very often, like, do you know what I mean? Things like that. Mm-hmm. So there is that. It's not a case of, it's just simply being a woman is enough to feel fear, because, as I've said, it's a mindset of the whole, they're weaker than men, which again isn't true, but that's just the mindset. And men are meant to be the protectors and the ones who are there, and that's probably old fashioned now, because there is a lot of independent women. Like, I'm a single parent, like I do everything myself, I don't need a man or whatever, so. But yeah, in terms of police, obviously people have probably seen that I've posted a lot about this over the past few days. And I just believe that people are now paying attention because it's affecting them in terms of like the way the police behave in certain manners. So obviously, as we've seen, I'm not going to make it into like a race issue, but I kind of am. As we've seen, like, black and ethnic minority people are disproportionately brutalised by police, violently handled by police, and now that it's happening to women especially, more people are taking notice, which can only be a good thing, because I think that should be something that's brought to the attention. And honestly, it should not have had to get to that point at the weekend for women to be hurt and brutalised by the police when it was in the most part a safe vigil. Yes, it wasn't socially distanced, which was wrong. Yes, in the middle of a pandemic, there's people dying. It probably was, again, the word that I like to use, tone deaf. However, it was absolutely needed. What wasn't needed was the violence that then ensued, because now that's completely overshined Sarah Everard in the case and the actual cause of why everyone was gathering there, because it's completely outshined that now, and it's all gone on to, police brutality and the way police behave and what they handle. And unfortunately, that shouldn't be what it's about. But police like to make things out them, and they like to, for some reason, go out and use their force irrationally. There has some police are good, don't get us wrong. I'm not tarring all the police with the same brush. My dad's obviously been a serving officer for 24 years. I'm not going to tar every police with the same brush, but that doesn't make me blind to what actually goes on. And obviously we saw again with the Rangers the Rangers crack last week when obviously they won the league. Well, didn't see no police brutality there in the news, did you? Didn't see police gathering around and causing human chains and, you know, pushing everybody about. You didn't see that then. So it's just one rule for one rule for another. If they're going to do it, do it. Just don't pick and choose when you're going to do it. That's my issue.
Gotta say, I dropped that on the girls tonight, and I'm proud to call them my friends because, you know, they speak a lot of sense. So well said. I'm glad we covered that tonight. I think it had to be said. And let's hope that things can get back to normal in more ways than one. Fans back into grounds, Alicia. Another bugbear for me, I'm afraid. I've got a few this week, haven't I? And 10,000 fans back in for Sheffield United, possibly. And then, obviously, the equivalent percentage for the Fulham game will be in for that game if the Premier League get their way and if COVID continues in the same way. I'm completely against it. I don't think there should be any fans in. I think it's an unfair advantage. I think it's an unfair advantage to Sheffield United and to Fulham because guaranteed, if we are in this same position as we are now, looking to try and stay in this division, then I would imagine 10,000 people, whoever they are, will go to that game and they'll be delighted to be there, but they'll be giving Steve Bruce pelters, and I think it'll work against us.
Yeah, I was actually, funny enough, I was just talking about that before I came on the show because I feel like those last two games, if fans are there, we could 100% lose both if it goes down the wire because, as you said, it's not going to be a nice atmosphere. It's going to be toxic. You know, one of the first matches I ever went to was when we got beat 3-1 off Bournemouth and Steve McLaren was manager. Well, great way to start off. And I remember what it was like. Like, it was absolutely toxic. It was a horrible atmosphere. You know, to the point where people were going around in like clown masks and saying, "Oh, Steve McLaren's team were down," all of that. That would be replicated, no shadow of a doubt, at that game, and you know, it'd probably be a lot worse. So probably for Steve Bruce's own sake, he's probably sitting there praying that it doesn't happen. But I do think it could actually go in Sheffield United's favour, and obviously, you know, it's not balanced. You've got to look at the point of it's not balanced as well because you're not getting away fans. So there isn't really going to be any back and forth between fans to kind of take the shine off him. So it's literally just going to be all about Steve Bruce. And obviously Fulham fans are going to feel completely different about their manager and going to be praising their team. So I think both ways it's just going to hinder us.
Yeah, I would agree. Sav, I mean, are you keen to see fans back in, or do you agree with me? Do you think it's going to be a bit of a poison chalice for us?
Yeah, I think it's just people are itching to get back to just have a go at Steve Bruce, and that'll all it will be about. And to be fair, our players haven't been motivated as it is. I don't think that's going to help the situation. I actually do think that the motivation for our players has been affected by not having fans there, but the only energy that's going to bring is negative energy. And, I think everyone would love to have a pop, wouldn't they? But it's just not the right time. He'll go eventually. But I don't think it's the right time. God, could you imagine the cabbages flying about? It'd be going mad. But no, I think just what's the point for the last two games of the season, really? No one's been in all season. Just let the season ride out. The vaccines are going round. Let us carry on for a few more months and then put fans back in. I think it's just going to give certain, sides unfair advantages with just having, one lot of fans in.
Yeah, I mean, good point made by Martin Heron, Holly, about, how on earth are they going to select the 10,000 fans that are going to go? I mean, that again will, if the fan base isn't already divided as it is, that's really going to cause, problems, isn't it?
It is. It's just going to cause a massive hassle for the club as well. Like, I don't understand why they're doing it, because if Boris Johnson's roadmap goes to plan, I mean, it's a big if, but if it does, then we're all supposed to be back in the ground for the start of the new season anyway. So what's the point in having us back for like one game? I just think it's kind of pointless. But I agree with you. I think that if fans come back, then it's really going to go against us, because everyone will be just so angry at Steve Bruce, which of course you can understand, but the people that go to the game, and if I was one of those people, I'd just be trying my best to get behind the team to give us the best chance of staying up, because it's not going to help us at that point in the season. It's not like he's going to get sacked there and then, like, it's just not going to achieve anything. But yeah, handing out the tickets to whoever gets choose is going to be a big problem, because I think there's about like 45,000 season ticket holders or 35,000 or something. So it is going to cause probably arguments.
I'd imagine it would be unlikely points to start with. They do have a system still, so I would imagine some of it would be that. But I did hear this awful rumour from somebody who I know who's a corporate box holder, who basically said that there would be a percentage going to them. Which they put the most money in, but then it becomes a class thing. Just because you've got more money, you should be allowed to go. I think it's going to cause major problems, that. And Gary Milliken says, will 10,000 want to go to the match? Good point. Les comes up with an alternative view. He says, won't have full games next season either, so let them in. 10,000 might just help us win. Fair enough. Life Goals says, apparently over 60% of the fans want Bruce out now. Wow, I'd say it was a lot more than that, mate. I'm not sure where you got that percentage from, but some of the post polls I've seen have been a lot more decisive than that. Kendall, 10,000 fans in, is it fair? Would you go?
I think it's just going to be like our demise, that, because the fans are going to fight amongst themselves. They fight amongst themselves now. Do you know what I mean? Like, over anything. So they're going to fight amongst themselves, because they're going to say, oh, well, I should be going because I've got more loyalty points than you, or I go to more away games. And someone liked to argue with me on Twitter the other day about it. And apparently I'm not as good of a fan as them because they go to away games, which weirdly, one of my pictures was in the Emirates Stadium. So, I go to away games as well. Like, you just find any reason to argue. So they'll argue over that. Yeah. They'll argue over people going. They'll be like, oh, you shouldn't go. You shouldn't support the club. You shouldn't support Mike Ashley. So people argue over that. It's just going to be a nightmare. The toxicity that is going to be in there, because as you say, it's a lot more decisive in terms of how we feel towards Bruce than the media likes to make out. It's going to be absolutely toxic. I don't even think it's going to help us win at all. I think it's going to be the opposite, because everyone's going to be, not make us lose, but I think everyone's going to be on a negative vibe. Like, they're just going to be shouting at Steve Bruce. There's going to be chants. There's going to be, booing. There's going to be all sorts, which the team really doesn't want to hear that. But fans aren't going to just, go in and cheer for Steve Bruce after everything he's put us through. I said before, about a year ago, he's had probably the easiest ride of any Newcastle manager ever, because he hasn't had fans there for most part of his managerial career now. Obviously, they were only there for the first half of, his first season in charge. So he has such an easy ride because he hasn't had everybody shouting at him and everybody telling him what they think. And I honestly think he would have walked way before now if the fans had been in. Obviously, Joe Linton could maybe we're always going to use him as a scapegoat. Maybe he could use a bit confidence boost, but it's not going to be a confidence boost when there's blooming 10,000 people there booing and shouting at you, is it? Like, I just think it's just not going to be great. And obviously, on the safety side of things, just 2 games is nothing. We're probably already, like, the teams who are going down are probably already relegated by that point, usually. So, unless, 18th place is still up for grabs, if you want to put it like that. So, what's the point? Like, 2 games is nothing to me. I understand if they want to let them in at Wembley, in the playoff finals or whatever like that. I understand that, but the final 2 games of the season, just a bit strange to me. Whoever's going to win the league, which is probably going to be Man City, and it's not like their fans haven't seen them win the league before, so just a bit pointless to me. Like, just wait till next season when it's more safe. We've had a bit of a gap, and things are more planned out, like in a more decisive and safe manner.
Yes, I agree. Black and White Knight says you can't grow 10,000 cabbages by the Sheffield United game. Brilliant stuff. Daniel Ford, thank you very much, says good evening. Good video, thank you very much. A lot of people are saying it's because of the Euros that they're doing this test. So we'll see. What happens over the course of the next few weeks. Got to be honest, I can't see us getting back in full stop. I don't have any belief that COVID's just suddenly going to go away just because 24 million people have been vaccinated. I think we've still got a long way to go.
Do you remember when everyone was meant to be going back before, like when they were going to do, when they let a certain amount of fans in, they were going to do the corporate ones then as well. They were going to give a percentage, and I think it was we played Fulham, but obviously it was lockdown came into play, the second lockdown before we played that game. But there was an argument over it then because they were given. They were selling tickets for the boxes for like £500, and it was a certain percentage of the 1,000 that were meant to be allowed in. I remember that we spoke about it on here, I think.
Yeah, I mean, I do remember that, and I think you're right. Lee Major, yes, I saw that on the Sky News feed. Things are sadly escalating in central London, and was only too predictable, I'm afraid. Let's look ahead to the Brighton game. Look ahead, God, Alicia, where do we go with this? I mean, I'm not even going to ask you to try and pick a team because Steve Bruce is set on his own path of destiny. But just to give you an idea, Steve Bruce's side, of course, head to Sussex without a victory in the last 5 games, just 2 wins in 17 Premier League outings. Yet we're doing quite well, he reckons. Graham Potter's side, Brighton, have just won once at home in 14 attempts so far this season. That was a 1-0 win against Tottenham in January. The other 13 have resulted in 7 draws, 6 defeats, with the most recent 2 both 2-1 losses to Palace and to Leicester. The referee and VAR still to be confirmed. Drew 0-0. In the Premier League last time we played Brighton. 1-1 before that. Jose Perez scoring in the Premier League. And how do you see it going, Alicia?
I don't see it going well. Even in that Crystal Palace game, they were absolutely robbed because they battered them, and then Benteke got an absolute fluky goal right at the end. So I rate them as a team. I think they're a decent team. I think Graham Potter knows what he's doing. They've been picking up more points than what we have recently. Obviously, it's there. I think we need a bit more of that Mo Diarme look that we had that time that we played Brighton with that fluky goal. I think we need some more of that. I'm not looking forward to it because it's the most difficult teams to play. Obviously, we're struggling against West Brom. All the teams around us we're going to struggle with because for some reason there is no belief in the team that we can beat teams around us. That, as I say, Fulham have the belief that they can beat any team, but we just don't have it. And I think we're going to go in it with fear of going, look, this is a make or break situation. I think they're just going to panic, and I can't see us getting something. I think it's going to be a really difficult game this weekend.
Prediction?
I want to say a draw. But I think it's going to be like a 1-0 either way. I think it's going to be somebody's just going to nick it.
Okay, Sav, your take on the game coming up at the weekend. It's a draw by a lot of people in the chat. Graham Potter, of course, as Tom Dixon says, he's come out today and says he's not worried about Newcastle.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not looking forward to that one because they absolutely battered us last time we had them. They embarrassed us. I mean, we were playing the old system, but then sometimes in the middle of the game, we will revert back to the old system for no reason at all. So yeah, I'm just not looking forward to it. I think it's going to be a 1-0 to Brighton. I don't want to be negative. No, I'll say a draw because I'm not being negative. But yeah, I just think they're going to outrun us because for some reason it's either that we don't have the fitness or that we just can't be bothered. I just wish that Steve Bruce would play the players that have got some real sort of will to be on the pitch rather than the ones that he thinks, because some of them, i.e., Dwight Gale, I think he looks like he can't be bothered anymore. Put the ones on that do want to play. I saw Andy Carroll put up an Insta post last week with "I'm over here in black and white" and shifty eyes, and I thought that was some sort of dig at Steve Bruce. And I think put him on, start him. And, if you don't do well, just sub him off. I don't understand why it's so difficult and why we make these subs in the last sort of few minutes. Just change it up. If it's not going right, change it up and try something else. But yeah, I can just see him overrunning us. I'm not looking forward to it. Yeah, it's all just a bit depressing, isn't it?
It is. That's exactly where I was last week. Holly, obviously you'll be joining us on Match Day Live, I would imagine, and give us your views on how you see it going.
I'll predict a 0-0, although I could see it being 1-0 to Brighton, but I'm not going to say that. I'm going to stick with a 0-0. I think that they'll have a lot of confidence from that Southampton win, and obviously their managers came out and said that he's not worried about us, so that just says all you need to know, really. Whereas Steve Bruce will come out and he'll be like, oh, well, we're a great side and we're going to have to roll with sleeves off. And it's just we could literally be playing Sunderland under nines, and you'd be like, oh, they're a great side, we're going to have to work so hard.
Holly, do you write these scripts?
Well, I'll probably do a better job for him. But yeah, just hopefully we can get a point. I think we need all 3 points. Also, the thing that annoyed me so much, he said this isn't a must-win game yet again. Like, what? What is he doing? I don't understand. Like, how is it? It's not a must-win game, and I don't get it. This is probably the most important game of the season because I think we need to win this really.
Okay, Kendall, last but by no means least, your views and your prediction for Brighton at the weekend.
I'll go 1-1 because, as Sal said, I don't want to be negative either. And I'm pretty much right every time I suspect that we're going to lose. So I'm not going to go there and hope that I'm right this time. That we're going to draw. Obviously, earlier in the season, they beat us 3-0, was it? At home. And we were at home. So beat us 3-0. So, I mean, and then we were on all right form. Like, we set off the season pretty well at that point. So God only knows what it's going to be like this weekend. I'm not looking forward to it at all. Like, they seem to grind out the wins or, you know, at least a draw when they need it the most. We just don't do that. They go out to win. We go out to get a draw, damage limitation every single time. I'm just not looking forward to it. I mean, funnily enough, their goals seem to be coming from their centre-backs at the moment as well, like Lewis Dunk's on fire. I just can't see us getting past, like, even him. They've got a decent player in Trossard, Lamptey. Like, they've just got a couple of decent players in there. Lallana's doing really well for them at the moment and was man of the match at the weekend. So, not looking forward to this at all. I'm sick. Why does it have to be us in Brighton all the time, man? It's like going back to the championship season. I don't want to have that PTSD again of, like, going down the final game of this season. Like, Aston Villa and bloody Brighton and Newcastle again. Honestly, what a nightmare. I'm sick. Deja vu.
It is. Been a great night though, girls. As always, love your views. Always good to get you on. Some straight talking from all of you, and even a bit of politics thrown in tonight. If you've enjoyed the show, please give the channel a subscription if you're not already a member. Check out the 5-minute rant. Some fantastic ranters, including a couple of the guys who are still in the chat. It would be nice to get another girl on at some point. If there's any girls out there, fancy it, don't be shy. Get yourself on the 5-minute rant next week. Always plenty of things to talk about Newcastle United wise. Tomorrow night, 6 o'clock till 7, Liam Kennedy. Keep an eye on the news. You always know when Liam's about. There's something big breaks, so God knows what will break tomorrow. And I did a fantastic interview, as always, with Mick Lowes on Sunday. Love talking to Mick. I think a lot of us love his commentary with, with Newcastle United games. And Mark Corby, NUFC 1980, 1994 on Twitter, put out the full season of some of Mick's commentary the other day on his YouTube channel, so well worth a listen. Girls, I'd like to go and watch the second half of the Liverpool game. Great to have you on. I'll see you next week. Take care. Good night.
Bye.
Attack. It feels like I've been talking to myself again, but it's the only way you're ever gonna learn. You look back and it's all in the past.